Hello. I'm glad to hear some of you watched my videos for the book and you enjoyed them. Some of you caught my unexpected visitor yesterday. That was my sister's cat, Blaze, who decides that anytime I sit in front of the computer, he has to be there. So maybe you'll see him as I try reading you the next chapters. So today we're going to start with chapter 13, which is called The Tin Woodman. Is everyone alive? Connor asked. A series of grunts, moans, and squawks answered his question. It was a miracle they had all survived. After what seemed like an eternity of falling, the barn had come to a sudden and harsh stop when it hit the ground. What was left of it imploded on impact, and the twins, their friends, struggled to push away the wreckage from piled on top of them. That was much rougher than I expected, Alex said. Hold on a second. You were expecting this? Goldilocks said. They all shot her a dirty look, and she smiled guiltily. Alex had completely forgotten her friends weren't familiar with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, as she and her brother were. They had no idea a cyclone was on the menu. Yeah, sorry about that, Alex said. In the story, a big tornado picks up Dorothy's house and sends it into the land of Oz. I probably should have filled you all in on that. But if the tornado sent them to Oz, where did it send us? Connor asked. They helped one another get to their feet and emerge from the collapsed barn. At first, they had to shield their eyes. Everything was so much brighter than it had been in Kansas. The sky was a vivid blue, and they were surrounded by a forest of green trees. Even the dirt was more radiant than before. Whoa, said Connor. Did someone adjust the contrast settings? Where are we? Jack said. Alex didn't have to think twice. You guys, we're in Oz, she excitedly declared. We didn't end up in Munchkin Land like Dorothy, but the cyclone definitely sent us here too. A small moaning sound suddenly filled the forest. Does anyone else hear that? Red asked. They looked around the trees, but they didn't find the source. Where is it coming from? Mother Goose said. Lester, is that your stomach? The goose shook his head. He was just as curious as everyone. The sound continued and appeared to grow more agitated as time went on. Connor gasped and his eyes grew very wide. He knew where it was coming from. Oh no, he said. The sound is coming from under the barn. We landed on someone just like Dorothy does. Quick, we have to get them out. Connor and the others quickly dug through the pieces of the barn. They figured they were getting closer to whoever it was because the moaning was becoming louder and louder. Please don't die. Help is on the way, Connor shouted into the wreckage. Glinda, is that you? Oh my goodness, if we killed Glinda, I'll never forgive myself. To Connor's relief, they didn't find the beloved Good Witch of the South, but uncovered a man instead. He was unusually tall and very thin. He had a long, pointed nose and wore a pointed cap. As they brushed the debris off of him, they discovered that everything about his clothes, from to his skin, was made of metal. Oh my gosh, it's the Tin Woodman, Alex said. Is he a friend of yours? Red asked. No, he's one of the main characters in the story, Connor whispered. This is a big deal. The Tin Woodman was so heavy it took all of them to pull him to his feet. He was as stiff as a statue and frozen in a position with his axe raised. His eyes were very large and darted around at the strange people helping him. He continued to moan, but his mouth was shut tightly. What's wrong with him? Goldilocks asked. Is he petrified? No, he's rusted, Alex said. He needs oil. Do you think that there's a body shop nearby? Mother Goose asked. No, he should have an oil can around here somewhere, Alex said. She looked around the trees and saw a tiny cottage a little ways into the forest. She ran to it and went inside, returning to her friends a few moments later with an oil can. She immediately oiled the joints around his prominent jaw, and it fell open. Ah! The Tin Woodman's moans turned into screams as his mouth was open, and it didn't stop. Everyone covered their ears and looked at the twins to do something. Is there a way to turn him off? Red asked. Dude, chill out, Connor said. Why are you screaming? Because a barn just fell out of the sky and landed on top of me, the Tin Woodman yelled. I doubt you'd be taking it any better if it happened to you. Goldilocks slammed the Tin Woodman's mouth shut until he calmed down. Are you going to stop screaming now? She asked, but he didn't move. Well, give us a nod. He can't nod unless he has oil, Alex said. She oiled the joints around his neck and the Tin Woodman nodded. Goldilocks pulled his mouth open again. That feels so much better, the Tin Woodman said. He was so relieved he had forgot what he had been screaming about. Would you be so kind as to oil the rest of me, please? Alex oiled his joints from the neck down. Slowly the Tin Woodman's body began to relax. His shoulders fell and he dropped his axe to his side. Thank you, he said with a long sigh. I've been holding that thing up for a year. You've been stuck like this for a year? Jack asked. Most uncomfortably, the Tin Woodman said. I always keep an oil can close by me in case I start to rust. The one time I left it in my cottage, a huge rainstorm caught me by surprise. I've been here ever since. That sounds terrible, Mother Goose sympathized. I know the feeling. I was buried alive for 2 weeks once. Boy, was I glad to get out of that mess. That's when I learned to ask questions before participating in religious rituals, no matter how cute the islanders are. The Tin Woodman glanced at them all nervously. Who are you people? Where do you come from? Connor pushed his sister forward. Alex, I'm going to let you take this one, since I always seem to say the wrong thing. Alex looked into the Tin Woodman's curious eyes. If the barn was any indication, the truth would be way too shocking for him to comprehend. She needed to come up with a story he could believe and wouldn't frighten him away if they needed his help. We aren't supposed to tell anyone, Alex said, but we're on a secret mission for the wizard. We were traveling through the air when our barn lost its balloon, something the wizard had put together for us, and we fell into this forest. Luckily, we had you to break our fall. The Tin Woodman was instantly captivated. His jaw dropped open and he put both hands on top of his head. You know the Wizard of Oz? He asked in bewilderment. We work for him, Alex said. There's a ruthless criminal on the loose and the wizard asked us personally to track him down. He's come to Oz in hopes of recruiting an army. The wizard wants us to stop him before any innocent people are hurt. Why, that's terrible, the Tin Woodman said. But what kind of army would he be looking to recruit? I was hoping you could tell us, she said. We aren't from around here. Would you happen to know of anyone or anything that might help this criminal overthrow the wizard? The Tin Woodman scratched his head as he thought it over. There are the guards of the Emerald City, but they would never betray the wizard, he said. Wait, I know. He'll probably team up with the Wicked Witch of the West. Everyone knows she wanted to get rid of the wizard since he came to Oz. The twins and their friends gulped in unison. They didn't have to be familiar with the story to know that the Wicked Witch of the West was one of the most terrifying villains in the history of literature. Naturally, the twins' uncle had come to Oz to partner with her. Well, that's not that bad, right? Connor said, desperately trying to make light of the situation. She's just one witch and a couple of flying monkeys. The flying monkeys aren't all she has in her control, the Tin Woodman said. She has 40 giant, ferocious wolves, a flock of 40 frightening crows, swarms of killer bees, and an army of winkies. Yep, that sounds like something Lloyd would be into, Mother Goose said. Wait, what's a winky? Red asked. A winky is how my parents told Alex and I apart when we were infants, Connor said, and laughed hysterically at his own joke, although no one joined him. Sorry, not the time. The Winkies are the people who live in the western half of Oz, the Tin Woodman explained. The Wicked Witch of the West enslaved them when she took over the Winky country, and now she rules the land mercilessly from her castle. The news bothered everyone except Alex. She was delighted to hear it. Alex, why are you smiling? Connor said. This is terrible news for us. We can't compete against that. No, this is great news for us, she said. It doesn't matter who or what our uncle is after as long as we know where he's headed. We can stop him before he reaches the witch. And if he landed in Munchkinland with Dorothy, and we're in the forest with the Tin Woodman, that means we've got at least a day or two of a head start. You're right, Connor said joyfully. We'll just hide out close to the witch's castle, then tackle him before he gets inside. But who's going to take us there, Goldilocks said. None of us know this land well enough to navigate through it alone. They all turned to the Tin Woodman at once, thinking the exact same thing. As soon as he caught on, the Tin Woodman put his arms up defensively. Don't look at me, he said. I'm not going anywhere near that place. Oh, come on, Red said. If this man gets to the Wicked Witch before we get to him, thousands of innocent people might die. Have a heart. Alex leaned in to whisper in Red's ear. That's not going to work, Red. Part of the story is that the Tin Woodman doesn't have a heart. What do you mean he doesn't have a heart? Red said loudly. That's absolutely ridiculous. Everything has a heart. The Tin Woodman quickly grew paranoid. How did you know I don't have a heart? Because the wizard told us, Connor said, thinking fast. The great and powerful wizard knows everything. He told us if we cross paths with a man made of tin to offer him a heart in exchange for helping us. So if I escort you to Winky Country, the wizard will give me a heart, he asked. He sure will. Excuse us for one moment, Alex interrupted. Before he could say more, Alex quickly pulled her brother aside. Connor, what are you doing? We don't have a heart to give this man. We'll papier-mâché one if we have to, Connor said. Even the wizard gives him a fake one at the end of the story, and he's perfectly happy with it. Good point, she whispered, as you were. Connor walked back to the Tin Woodman and offered him a handshake. 1 heart in exchange for guidance into the Wicked Witch's castle. Do we have a deal, Mr. Woodman? The Tin Woodman was very conflicted. Could he face his biggest fear in return for his greatest wish? He certainly wouldn't get a heart waiting around in the forest. Deal, he said, and shook Connor's hand. Fantastic, Mother Goose said. How are we getting there? We'll take the yellow brick road, of course, he said matter-of-factly. A quiet little gasp slipped out of Alex, and she grabbed her brother's hand. Is it far? Jack asked. It's just beyond that forest, the Tin Woodman said. We'll take it all the way to the Emerald City and then travel through the Winky Country to the witch's castle. Everyone follow me, and someone bring my oil can. He led the way, and Mother Goose, Jack, Red, Goldilocks, and Lester followed closely behind him. Alex pulled Connor a few steps back and let the others get a head start. Did you hear that, Connor? Alex said. She had bright eyes and a huge smile. He's taking us to the yellow brick road. The yellow brick road! My inner 6-year-old self is flipping out. Connor smiled too. There she is, he said with a happy sigh. Where is what? Do you see it already? I'm not talking about the yellow brick road. I'm talking about you, Connor laughed. It's nice to see you excited about something again. I missed it. All right, that's the end of chapter 13. Chapter 14 is called Trouble on the Yellow Brick Road. I'll get back to you guys with another video. Have a good day.